We're going to listen to a speech from the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern. Very left-leaning, progressive, forward-thinking individual. And the speech is at the United Nations. You know, that organization which is very concerned about human rights. So let's listen to it.
This week we launched an initiative alongside companies and non-profits to help improve research and understanding of how a person's online experiences are curated by automated processes. This will also be important in understanding more about mis- and disinformation online, a challenge that we must, as leaders, address. Sadly, I think it's easy to dismiss this problem as one in the margins. I can certainly understand the desire to leave it to someone else. As leaders, we're rightly concerned that even the most light-touch approaches to disinformation could be misinterpreted as being hostile to the values of free speech that we value so highly.
The values of free speech that we value so highly. And look at her face of deep concern as the mantle of responsibility has been trusted upon her. And we will protect free speech by using the force of the government to pressure corporations and the private sector to censor.
But while I cannot tell you today what the answer is to this challenge, I can say with complete certainty that we cannot ignore it. To do so poses an equal threat to the norms we all value. After all, how do you successfully end a war if people are led to believe the reason for its existence is not only legal but noble? How do you tackle climate change if people do not believe it exists?
How do you tackle blasphemy if people do not believe God is real? I'm pretty sure the Soviet Union wondered, how do you tackle the West if people do not believe the West are malevolent? It's your job as a politician to convince people that your agenda is worthwhile. And if you can't do that, censoring people isn't going to convince them. All you're doing is you're using authoritarianism. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're at a company and you show a green piece of paper and you say that from now on this piece of paper is blue and anyone that claims it's green gets fired, you will successfully convince all employees to say that the piece of paper is blue. But in reality, you're not going to actually persuade them. You just created an oppressive system. You're becoming a tyrant of a boss, which is forcing people to lie to themselves. Because if a person is not convinced of something and they are expressing something else entirely, they are liars. Even if they are saying the truth, even if, for example, I were to think that 2 plus 2 equals 5, and I hold this belief dearly, like I genuinely believe that 2 plus 2 equals 5. If I say that 2 plus 2 equals 4, I'm a liar because I don't believe it. And I'm expressing something which is false. And you are admitting that as a politician, you are incapable of convincing people of your agenda. And as such, you have to go to other measures of authoritarianism, of dictatorship, of pushing your will upon people, whether they want it or not. And you claim that you're doing this to protect free speech. Like, you are protecting people's ability to speak by censoring it.
How do you ensure the human rights of others are upheld when they are subjected to hateful and dangerous rhetoric and ideology? The weapons may be different, but the goals of those who perpetuate them is often the same: to cause chaos and reduce the ability of others to defend themselves, to disband communities.
Wait, isn't she the person that just a couple of months ago was claiming that not to leave medical decisions to the state will cause a New Zealander to become a tier 2 citizen? Isn't that her?
So you basically said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is, so yep.
Ah, naruhodo. So there are certain people who deserve to have their rights taken away. It's just that the government in New Zealand gets to decide who those people are. And I also love the facial expression all of a sudden. It's one of happiness, of glee. It's not like, well, these are tough times and there are difficult circumstances, so we are pressured to do this. It's almost like finally we get to do it. Like finally all of this power that we have centralized and all of these power at our fingertips, we finally get to unleash. It's like a police officer that finally gets to use the pepper spray for the first time.
To collapse the collective strength of countries who work together. But we have an opportunity here to ensure that these particular weapons of war do not become an established part of warfare.
What on earth is she talking about? So, people using the internet to have conversations with each other unsupervised is like a weapon of war. I mean, I get that you would feel like that if you're clinging to power and you forget that it's a democracy and you are supposed to relinquish power at some point. If you're an authoritarian, if you're like Stalin, Mao, or Hitler, and you're thinking, no, like, I can save humanity, only I can make absolutely sure that I can save the planet, then yeah, with that mindset, you would be terrified about people talking and pushing a counterculture that would eventually take you down, and you would view that as a weapon of war because you would view those people evil. Like, you are there to save the human race, and you have these other people that want to take that power away from you. Now, assuming that free speech is a weapon of war, how would peace look like in this vision?
Most up-to-date information daily. You can trust us as a source of that information. Otherwise, dismiss anything else. We will continue to be your single source of truth. We will provide information frequently. We will share everything we can, everything else you see, a grain of salt.
I mean, of course, isn't it a stereotype that the politicians never lie? If the most honest people in any society throughout the history of mankind have always been politicians, and they have absolutely no incentive to lie, ever. And of course, it's just the politicians in power. The ones that are trying to get power, they lie all the time. When they're not speaking, they're lying to themselves. I'm really curious, though, what separates a society which values free speech to one that doesn't? Like, what is the difference at this point between this model where the government always tells the truth and you can get the truth only from the government, and I don't know, Benito Mussolini's Italy or Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia? Because in those societies, they also believe that the government tells only the truth and that they need to control the press and they need to control how people think. Granted, they didn't have social media, but I'm really curious. Like, do you think if social media existed under Benito Mussolini's Italy or Nazi Germany, do you not think they would try to control it? Like, do you think social media would look more like it used to look in 2016 US? Or would it look more like in the vision of Jacinda Ardern, where the state controls everything? I'm really curious, because I just don't understand the difference between a liberal society and a dictatorship at this point. But, you know, maybe one day Jacinda Ardern could give us an example of a society that doesn't value free speech, so we can make the comparison between her society and the other one. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.